Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 stories for you from the MaliciousCompliance subreddit. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Loose Wayne. New purse check rule absolutely mandatory. I work 3 jobs. The hours and days vary. My full-time job is in an office space on a very fancy modern office with a great company. They have some great amenities on site too, a full gym, lockers and showers, full cafeteria, etc. My second job is close to full-time. Full-time depending on other employees' availability. No set schedule, very chaotic and not well ran. It's a boutique just a bus ride from my office, and it's all in a very busy downtown tourist port city by the ocean. The thing is, it's a tourist boutique. It's all city branded trinkets, shirts, postcards, and gifts. There's really not much any locals would want unless buying it for out-of-town family. Third job is a fast food place. I'm often between these 2 jobs and don't have time to run home between. I carry a gym bag with me with my tiny purse wallet inside, along with clean business professional clothes, gym clothes, and work uniforms to change in and out of, extra underwear. It's summer and extremely hot, and our buses don't usually ever have AC, so if there's time, I'll shower at the office, and I have travel-sized shower items. A book for the bus rides, I don't have a car, lunch and snacks, hairbrush. Apparently, the boutique has experienced a lot of loss, something we had previously brought up being an issue because our boss, the owner, will have big tables and buckets of items outside by the sides of the door where we can't monitor them, especially if we're inside with customers. People definitely take advantage, and we've seen a lot of people grab things and just take off. These aren't the cheaper items in the store either. We've lost an entire display of mid-price sunglasses, handfuls of bikini separates, and at one point, the entire table was emptied in a snatch and run with about 5 younger people. But he thinks it's us stealing things. His wife runs the store, she's always in. She said, "We have a new mandatory bag check, and every employee in the store is a woman who usually carries a purse or bag. It's not just a quick look through the bag. She wants to remove the items and feel around the sides of the bag and make sure we aren't taking any trinkets and items." I'll be honest, I haven't seen anybody on staff, there's 4 of us, ever steal anything. And I don't even think it's because they're all stand-up employees. I think it's because they don't care to own any of the cheap, tacky tourist items. Because my bag is bigger, it's been kind of a nightmare for me. She wants me to take every individual item out of my bag and show there's nothing wrapped up inside of it. Lay it out across a table by the register. The first day of this, I was late to work because she wouldn't start checking my bag until I clocked out. And then, she took her time with a customer, causing me to be almost a half hour late to my other job. I considered that I could just continue getting lockers at my office, but they're day use only, so depending on my schedule, I'd have to make a separate trip to get back to the office before the building closed to remove my items, and it wouldn't be feasible with my other jobs. I'm honestly pretty sure the staff who cleans the lockers at the end of the day probably wouldn't mind and would work something out for me, but I don't feel like I need to go out of my way to keep a steady rotation on a locker. If my boutique manager wants to make things awkward and difficult on me, I'm gonna turn around and do it right back to her. She is a very tightly wound conservative lady, so I added a few extra items to my gym bag. I don't get my period, but I picked up a menstrual cup. Period talk makes her absolutely faint. I included some new reading material, old 70s Playboys I keep at the house for aesthetic purposes, and I just like them. I swapped in some of my sexiest and functionally impossible underwear, but also one of my granniest of panties. I also, for no reason at all, included condoms, furry handcuffs, a gag gift at my sister's bachelorette party, and I picked up a pamphlet at a nearby community center for their group therapy for bereavement. It went off perfectly at the end of my shift. There were customers in the store and she made me go through my bag item by item, opening them up and holding it up so she could check to make sure there was nothing hidden. I carefully fanned out my old magazines to show there was nothing between the pages. I pulled out each set of panties like a creepy fashion show, holding them up to the light so she could see directly through the lace. Every item we pulled out of the gym bag made her more and more flush. She was uncomfortable, she could barely perform the check. She nearly had a panic attack when I pulled out a little sandwich baggie with a menstrual cup in it. I even pulled out the pamphlet and set it aside slowly with the intent to seem affected by it. And she looked at me quizzically and kinda confused, asked what's this about, and I said solemnly, "Oh, I haven't lost anybody, but it's a great place to meet new people." I pulled the condoms out right after saying that. My second bag check was definitely faster than the first, and I was finished and out the door in time to catch my bus and arrive to work early actually. Speed running the bag check wasn't my initial plan, but it was definitely an unconsidered plus to the situation. I honestly don't mind doing a bag check if they really feel like it's so necessary, but the invasiveness of making every employee pull out inside everything in their bags on a table where every customer in the store has a plain view of everything they have is a little much, and purposely making it take so much time that it's interfering with our other jobs and personal lives is crossing the line. But now I'm kind of excited to see what other items I can include in my gym bag just to keep her on her toes. I don't want it to be too obvious, but just enough to make her consider that a lady's bag is usually private, and upending that for all our customers to see might not be great for business. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called KiwiMuzz. It says, "Bag checks should not be done after you clock out. If it is a mandatory requirement, then they must pay you for your time. I would recommend a pack of teddy bear, a whip, and a self-help book on anger management." OP responded to this one and said, "Thank you, I didn't know this. I'm absolutely bringing it up to my coworkers today too." OP, I hope you start getting paid for your time, and oh my gosh, down in the comment section below people, and let's try and keep it at least a little clean, what do you think OP should add into their bag? Let us know. You're so obsessed with how I dress that you're going to involve HR? Alright, let's get a supervisor involved and see how that goes for you. I work at a hospital that doubles as a research institution. Since I'm on the research side, I have to involve lots of other departments, and most people with whom I work with are very chill and understand that I have to beseech them for things to do my job. I'm one of those, she can go 100 hectares on a single tank of kerosene type of people, and I'm very on top of things, for which my coworkers value me. However, the one place where that camaraderie breaks down is with some of the nurses who work in my specific unit, focusing on one particular disease. Honestly, I've done a good job making most of the nurses like me. I bring them homemade treats sometimes, and I'm always extra friendly and approbative with them. Some of them have their days regardless, and I put up with them. Right after I first started working in that specific clinic, unfortunately, one nurse in particular, let's call her Bitchelle, had decided that I was on her blacklist. Bitchelle hates doing work. She's like a kid playing Xbox when their parents ask them for help with groceries. She'll moan and groan, and if she helps at all, it's with an angsty indignation. I needed a series of blood tubes drawn in clinic for a patient one morning. Instead of down in phlebotomy, protocol rules, more complicated and stupid than it's worth getting into here, and Bitchelle was the only nurse available. She was extremely put off at my asking her to draw this protocol kit, despite my giving advance notice to clinic that this needed to be done. She clearly did not want to leave her computer, which was not open to anything work-related, but she begrudgingly went and drew the tubes. She was unnecessarily profusely thanked by me, just for doing her darn job. I came back down later to get a prescription signed for another patient, and a different nurse asked me what I'd done to upset Bitchelle, because she'd apparently been going off about me to anyone who would listen. I explained what had happened. The other nurse informed me that Bitchelle was pissed at me, and also felt my outfit, a white medical coat, a modest blouse, work pants, and high-heel boots, was too provocative. What? I just decided to let it go and try to avoid Bitchelle as much as possible. This did not work. I kept running into situations where the other nurses were busy seeing patients. I was forced to walk back into the nurse triage room, which is off limits to patients, and ask Bichelle to draw 2 more of these blood kits in the next month. She was never happy to see me, and she was always wasting time on her work computer when I entered the room. Maybe 2 or 3 days after that last kit draw, my supervisor called me in her office to discuss my presentation. She very nicely and with pity in her voice told me she'd received a report about my dress habits in patient-facing spaces. She said she personally hadn't noticed anything, no crap, but was obligated to discuss this with me anyhow. I assured her I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought about confronting Bichelle, but decided not to because, loose cannon and whatnot. After a brief reminder of the dress code, I figured that at least it was over. It was not over. 2 weeks later, and I hadn't even asked anyone to draw any kits in the interim, a formal report was filed against me for my conduct in clinic. This went to the hospital, and then my supervisor, who, even after reading the report, seemed totally clueless about what it could mean. I explained what had been happening with Bichelle. But then, my supervisor told me a second person had reported this as well, on the same day as who was obviously Bichelle. This time, it was a patient. The patient had reported that I was dressing improperly for a patient-facing environment. Whoa. I asserted that I wasn't, but I was nonetheless put on probation, which meant that my supervisor, against her will, now had to come with me when I saw patients in clinic for the foreseeable future. And a nurse manager would have to accompany both of us when she was free, since I was dressing provocatively in patient-facing spaces, and that was her domain. But as you can likely guess from her browsing habits, Bichelle was not the sort of person who needed more supervisors in her area. Cue malicious compliance. Fine, you want to punish me and force me to work in the eyesight of the supervisors? Alright, let's get some supervisors down here as quickly as possible. My next in-clinic patient came in 2 days, and it was one of those stupid timed-in clinic protocol kit visits, which meant I was forced to ask one of the nurses to draw the patient's blood. I informed my supervisor and we set off down for clinic. The nurse manager was in that day, so she accompanied the 2 of us. We all went back into the triage room so that I could ask for help with the blood draw. Bichelle and one other nurse were there. What we saw upon entering was the other nurse entering vital signs for a patient into our health database, and Bichelle sitting at her desk with an online clothing retailer open on one monitor and Facebook on the other. I asked for Bichelle's help drawing the kit, and she sighed heavily and spun around to see 2 higher-ups looking on with disdain at her work computer. In embarrassment, she swiveled back and closed those 2 tabs, which revealed, and you can't make this stuff up, a website for marital aids that had been open in another tab, about which Bichelle had clearly forgotten until now. I just smiled and handed her the bag like nothing had happened. In the hall, my supervisor and the nurse manager were talking about Bichelle's display just now. Apparently, she had been previously warned about goofing off at work. The nurse manager told the supervisor that she was going to check all of Bichelle's work computer activity, which I actually didn't know any supervisor could readily access. What followed was so incredibly beautiful that I hope it made the ending of this long post worth waiting for. According to the nurse who'd initially asked me what I had done to upset Bichelle, her activity was searched. She was revealed to have been spending hours upon hours every day browsing the web, shopping, and using social media. Since she had been previously warned about this behavior, she was given a formal write-up. But this was just the beginning. The day after the 3 of us went down to clinic, my supervisor called me in her office again. She told me that Bichelle had fabricated the patient complaint about me and posted it from her work computer. How did they learn this? Oh, that'd be because she saved a draft of the message that reported me to the hospital, and she'd accessed the patient complaint and comment webpage the same day. My supervisor sincerely apologized for the hassle and told me I was no longer on probation. As for Bichelle, apparently fearing the worst, She put her 2 weeks notice in the same day after getting wind that she was in some far more serious trouble. For reasons I will never understand as long as I live, the hospital chose to let her quit after 2 weeks instead of firing her on the spot. Maybe they knew what a nightmare she was and were comfortable letting her quit on her own accord. It's not as though she was due to glean any glowing references from this experience. Maybe they just wanted some extra work. Our clinic was very short-staffed for nurses at the time. In any case, they chose not to fire her and let her quit on her own. On Bichel's last day, I ventured down to the triage room to retrieve some outside records from their printer. When I entered, Bichel was alone and browsing Glassdoor. I unbuttoned my white coat and told her, "Hey, good luck with your next job. I hope the employees are less provocative." She slowly spun around with a scowl on her face. Then I lifted my dress up to my neck, flashed her my bare chest, and walked out, and I never saw Bichel again. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called TechNot. It says, "Depending on the state and a company's own requirements, firing someone for cause can be a lot of paperwork. Letting someone resign in 2 weeks and then quietly marking their personnel folder as do not rehire is so much simpler. The waters can get muddier when the employee is known to lie and fabricate things. 10 to 1, Bichel would have filed a wrongful termination complaint to get unemployment and severance. She's eligible for squat when she quits." Well, I've got to say, I've never had a parting gift quite like that when I've left a workplace. That was an interesting end to the story. Not sure that was the best idea though, because that could definitely come back on OP, but there's been no updates, so I'm gonna guess it hasn't. This story comes to us from Sarah Simfan. "You want me to brew coffee? Fine." I had a job many years ago at a call center. We had a nice break room, 3 fridges, a bagel toaster, huge sign with "Do not leave unattended" on it, amazing little fire hazard, bread toasters, and an older coffee maker. Many of the employees were horribly addicted. I mean, to coffee, yes, but also nicotine, Mary Jane, and more difficult substances, shall we say. This story obviously involves the coffee maker. It also involves myself and my manager. I was, out of the blue, instructed to take over coffee maker duties. Great. Only one huge problem. I don't drink coffee. Coffee made me sick. Small quantities would make me vomit if they were in anything I ate or drank. Since I don't drink coffee, I generally have no idea how to make coffee. I mean, you take ground up beans, put them in a filter, and run hot water through, and coffee comes out the bottom. The machine was a professional grade brewer. It was provided by a company that also stocked our vending machines. This wasn't a unit you could go to Walmart or Target and purchase. It was more industrial than that. It also didn't have any instructions. I asked my coworker for some help and he must have thought I was joking because he told me to add 2 cups of coffee from pre-ground sealed packets to the hopper on top of the machine. Now, I'm not stupid, and here's where the malicious compliance comes from. I followed his instructions. It was glorious. All of my coffee-addicted coworkers were jittery, their teeth turned black, and they frequently had coffee grounds in their teeth. There was a distinct burned coffee smell in the break room. After a few days, my manager asked me WTF I was doing to the coffee, and this time, she actually listened when I told her I didn't drink coffee. Upon realizing this, she laughed and selected the coworker that instructed me on the improper operation of the machine to become the designated coffee brewer. Everyone found this funny, many while jittering away in their tiny cubicles. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called TurboMap. It says, if you make coffee that is so strong it makes people jittery, that is a them issue. Sounds like you made some grade A gourmet miracle mud. Your talents are wasted at a call center. Might I suggest moving into healthcare or the legal profession? OP responded to this one and said, I work in healthcare now, actually. Call center was to get enough money for college, which actually did happen. Completely agree with OP on this one. I used a call center for a stepping stone myself. Well, I spent 8 years in call centers, but we'll kind of ignore that part. I even met my wife in a call center, which is awesome. and we've been together now for 15, 16 years, so that's pretty cool. OP, I would have loved to have seen your coworkers all being really jittery on the coffee you made. The thing is though, if they're used to getting coffee, they should have known that it was way too strong and maybe done something about it to make it better for them. So definitely that one's on them, not on you. Hello, street cleaner. I see you're interrupting me today. Driving very, very slowly by my house. It's kind of neat. It's like a little Zamboni for the streets.